Hello, welcome to Going Native with me, Neil Stokes. This is the interview series where I speak to Catalan people in English. And today we haven't got any Catalan people, but we will be speaking in English. We sometimes go off-piste sometimes. Today we've got Erin van der Heij.
Van der Heij.
Van der Heij.
Oh my goodness.
I should have checked that before. I'm unprofessional, no?
That's all right.
And Tom Wogan. Both of you are from Cambridge, and well, tell me your proper titles. We were talking about it a little bit before, and instead of me trying to remember them, you just tell me them. So you are?
All right, I'm the head of support services for Exams Catalunya, which is a Cambridge English Platinum Center here, based in Barcelona, but we operate throughout Catalunya and Mallorca.
Good. And Tom?
Well, I work for Cambridge English Language Assessment, which is the part of the University of Cambridge that does exams, makes exams.
Right.
And I'm the consultant. But that just means that I try and help exam centres promote Cambridge exams and also other Cambridge products which are in line with what we do. Good.
Well, so this is where we're going to be talking about English language teaching. We're going to be talking about examinations and so on, a little bit about a conference you've got coming up as well. But just so that people know exactly where we're coming from. Exams Catalunya, what is that exactly? Could you sort of like fill us in a little bit?
Yes. So we work hand in hand with Tom and with Cambridge English Language Assessment because we are a Cambridge English authorized center, which means we administer exams. We do open sessions, meaning we organize them here in Barcelona using universities as the venue, and also our own center, our own office in La Bonanova. And we also go to schools and do exams in schools. And then the examination and the assessment aspect is just one part sort of a cycle of things that we offer. So there's the teaching and learning bit, and we also, my title as head of support services what we do is support our clients in helping their students learn English. And therefore, when they get to the assessment bit of taking exams, they're going to be successful. This
is like a relatively new thing, because this seems like coordinating the whole thing. Because I always remember sort of the Cambridge Exams School sort of getting on with it a little bit by themselves, and it sounds like you're providing a whole sort of like network of support for those exams.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about, so people are clear, we're talking about, you know, those exams that everyone's heard of, first certificate exam, the advanced exams, this suite of Cambridge exams that a lot of people will maybe have taken already themselves, or have children who are studying for.
Oh, absolutely, Neil, because I think you've hit the nail on the head when you say that. Historically, you just think, kids get on with it, they go to a place with 1,000 other people and they take the first certificate exam and that's done. Where now we're trying to provide more of a rounded service, not only to the people taking the exams, but to their teachers, to their parents. We've got even social media channels, for example, where we provide tips to parents for helping their kids learn English at home, things that they can do, activities. The conference that we're holding on Saturday the 19th is definitely a big part of that. That's sort of the jewel in all of our support activities, in which we invite teachers, both from language academies, but also from public and charter schools in the area, to come and see speakers, and it offers a little bit of everything. There's some theory, there's speakers in the morning, but there's also workshops in the afternoon. So it's got a practical aspect to it, and it's got a theoretical aspect to it. So hopefully that lets people go home with some ideas that they can take back to their classrooms and to their schools in order to make the assessment part of the cycle just one. I want to say that the assessment part of the cycle, I've just totally blanked, so I'm really sorry.
Well, I've got a question for Tom. So, Tom, you're probably more on, because you're in a more organisational coordination role.
Exactly.
And you're more sort of hands-on with the schools and so on and putting a lot of this into practice. These schools that are doing these exams or are preparing these students for exams, what do you find that help they need the most in?
Well, there are a lot of schools that are interested in doing the exams. For a long time now, the concertadas have been doing exams, perhaps more than the public schools. But public schools are becoming more and more interested in it. And what they want is just basically to give a wider offer to the students. So students who are maybe third or fourth of ESO, who are interested in doing an exam, can then do it within the school. What you mustn't forget, of course, is that a lot of students still study outside of school, in private language schools, and they're very important. Then they are part of let's say, the network. We have the exam centres, but we also have the preparation centres. And a school can be a preparation centre, a university can be a preparation centre, and of course, private language schools are preparation centres. And they do a lot of the hard work in preparing candidates for the exams. So if you see it as a sort of process, traditionally the idea was the exam was at the end of the process. Now, more and more, exam centres are becoming involved in what happens before. But your question is, what do I do to help teachers?
What do they ask from you the most?
Mostly
what do they need from you the most?
Mostly they need information. They don't know how the exam works, the construct of the exam, what it's testing, how it in what way it tests, the criteria of evaluation. And, you know, if there's a lot of complicated information here, and it's always much easier to sit down with someone and just ask questions as they occur to you. So a good part of my job is simply trying to explain what's available.
And another thing that you've been very busy, Erin, because apart from all of that, you've also been preparing a conference that's coming up, the 4th annual ELT. ELT is English Language Teaching.
English Language Teaching, exactly.
4th annual ELT, that's pretty good, I knew that.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's good.
ELT conference in Barcelona. Can you tell us a little bit about that? That's on November the 19th?
It is. It's being held at ESADE Forum, and registrations are still open, so we're still taking registrations to attend the conference. It's quite an action-packed day. In the morning, there's a couple of plenary speakers. For example, our keynote speaker is Dr. Anne O'Keefe, who is coming from the University of Limerick. She is one of the 2 main researchers for the English grammar profile. And so what that is that's a research project by which the 2 researchers are trying to see how grammar is used in communication, because a lot of times we talk about talking is what's most important, but you actually also have to have good grammar in order to make yourself understood. So she's coming along. We're having another couple of plenaries in the morning and in the afternoon, and we also are having a discussion panel. I'm really excited about that. Tom will be participating in the discussion panel. And the discussion is going to talk about what the theme of our conference is this year as language as communication. So for the last 15, 20 years or so, the focus of language teaching, English language teaching, has been the communicative method, focusing more on communication than other aspects of learning, such as grammar, for example. And they're going to debate whether or not that continues to be a correct focus, whether or not we can incorporate other aspects, whether or not things need to change in order to make language learning useful and meaningful for students. Because language skills, regardless of whether it's English or any other language, aren't going to increase until, for the student itself, it actually means something.
Yeah.
And then in the afternoon is practical. It's workshops. So we have 3 workshop slots, and the attendees can choose to participate in one of 18 workshops throughout the afternoon.
Right.
So it's a bit of theory and it's a bit of practical use, and hopefully it's an interesting day for everyone who attends. I'm actually very excited about it.
Yeah,
it's coming together really nicely, yeah.
Well, it's the 4th one now, so you've got a bit of experience under your belt with it, I suppose.
I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, although you won't have any excuse if it's not a success, have it? And
It
if
will
it's
be
the
a
first
success.
one, you can always say, oh, it was my first go.
No, we have a
It's
great
like-
team of people, and you know, we have everyone in our
Yeah.
center works the day of the conference, and we even have people who normally, because as part of my job is support services, I work with our team of examiners and exam invigilators, the people who administer the exams. And some of those people are either attend the conference or work with us to make the day a success. So no, it's a great day.
Yeah.
It's a really nice opportunity to network with people that you do see here and there, maybe at an exam session
Yeah.
for 5 minutes, but you don't really get a chance to talk to them.
That's true, because if people are sort of, you know, they're in their schools all the time.
They're in their
they
schools
don't
and
get
they're
the
working
chance
and they're
to- yeah.
focusing either on
Yeah.
the teaching or on taking an exam, and then at the conference you see these people that you're able to talk to and see how they're doing and see where they're going. And we've got something fun, I think, too, planned. We're going to be having a graffiti board asking the participants for their ideas for future workshops and for future conferences, and even speakers if they would like to recommend a speaker. Because what we want to do is we want to make the conferences in the future, and even our seminar program as well, more collaborative, and to offer our clients things that are interesting to them and things that will be useful to them, so that we're not just doing what we think is best without getting the opinions of the people who are really
Yeah.
really taking these things to task. So.
And Tom, you're going to be giving a talk there, are you? What's your talk going to be on? More or less.
Yeah, I can't really remember
Well, you're
actually.
in the discussion panel.
I'm in the discussion panel, which terrifies me. I don't really know why I've been asked.
They must have had an empty seat. Need to fill one up.
Comic effect, maybe.
No, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
But what you've got any ideas what you're talking about? Though?
Yeah, I am going to be talking. I'm going to be talking about a book I read, and it has some interesting things to say about received ideas. The book was actually written about state school education in the UK, but actually a lot of the criticisms that are made in the book are appropriate for the world of English language teaching and assessment. So yeah, it's like an extended book review.
Okay, well, yeah, no, that's all very technical though, because this is for the teachers, and it will obviously then gets filtered down to the pupils at a much later stage after they've sort of processed it and turned it into.
It's a little bit of everything.
No, just a little bit of where people watching who might not be. Obviously, everyone is familiar with English.
Right.
They've either got kids or they did it themselves. I mean, everyone's been in an English class and all the rest of it. But obviously what we're talking about now is at a level which is maybe behind the scenes that they don't necessarily see in class when it comes to actually sitting in front of another pupil and practicing something.
No, absolutely. And also too, for example, the workshop that Tom is giving is a bit more theoretical. But we're also offering workshops that really cover a range of topics, because the kinds of teachers that are coming come from all different places. Some of them come from language schools where they just teach small children or teenagers, or some are coming from public schools, some are coming from concertadas, things like that. So we wanted to offer a range of workshops and a range of plenary speakers as well, to have a little bit of something for everybody.
Yeah.
Because there are some more theoretical type of workshops. There's also some really hands-on ones, such as speaking and writing and personalizing things in primary, because they find that the more personal an activity is to the child, the more they tend to learn, because they really get engaged in it. Or there's another one that's being offered called English for the Zombie Apocalypse.
Oh, that sounds good. Well,
Yeah,
I'd go to that one.
Yeah,
Definitely.
doesn't that sound cool? And what it's really doing is it's making it something interesting and sort of topical as well. Everybody's really into zombies right now, aren't they? And it's a group activity, so people will be able to work together. And these are ideas for teachers. Of course, the teachers are going to take these ideas back to their classes, hopefully, and say, right, this really engaging, sort of cool, very trendy topic, let's take this and make this an interactive activity.
Right.
So there's just a little bit of something for everyone, and I think that's why I'm excited about this conference, is that hopefully that everyone who comes to it will not only have an enjoyable time, but go away with good ideas to take back to their classrooms, whether or not they teach children or teenagers or university students.
Yeah, yeah. No, well, that's an important thing for English teachers, though, isn't it? I mean, I used to teach English a long time ago, and one of the things was this constant hunger for ideas and new ways of doing things and stuff. And I was going to actually ask both of you a little bit about, I'm out of touch now because I haven't done any English teaching for a long time. I sort of miss it a little bit, actually. It's the sort of thing that when you're in the middle of it, you complain about it all the time, and then later on you think, oh, I actually quite miss it, but I would be a disaster now, I think, if you put me in front of you. I'd end up in court, probably, for sort of... But what's changed then, say, I know, the last 10 years or so, in sort of general terms, what direction is English language teaching moving in?
Well, what would you say, Tom? You still teach English, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I don't think really much has changed in terms of what actually happens in the classroom, in terms of which methodologies are used. I mean, the two dominant methodologies are the communicative language approach and task-based learning.
Is that because it works, or is that because of fashion?
There is a lot of evidence to support the communicative language methodology, and it's closely linked with research in second language acquisition. But also because, I have to be honest, the publishers, the major publishers, produce books which follow that methodology. So you don't know whether the book is produced to service a need or whether the book has been created to create a need.
That's a brilliant point, because I wanted to bring that up, because I was thinking, what is, driving methodology the way that,
Well, that's what we'll be debating.
Exactly.
As well.
Is it coming, or I mean, I don't know what's the best, or is it coming from the publishers, or is it coming from the teachers, or is it coming from the school administration, or is it coming from people like you guys who are also involved? I mean, the exams as well can often dictate the pace and the nature of things, because you know what it's like preparing for an exam. You end up, hang on, am I learning the language or am I just preparing to pass?
Well, absolutely.
So where are we among all of those aspects, more or less, do we think? I mean, I don't expect...
Well, I don't know if there actually is a really easy answer to
No.
that. And I think that's why we chose the theme that we did for this year, because it's coming to a point where there's been so much focus recently on communication and whether or not you can speak. But at the end of the day, this is personal, but I believe that you do still have to have a good basis in the language, a decent vocabulary and a decent level of grammatical understanding in order to properly communicate. But whether or not, they're not going to toss the communicative method because, as Tom says, based on research, it is what works for a second language acquisition, but whether or not it's something that needs to be shifted a little bit to perhaps incorporate other methodologies that maybe have been left by the wayside. You know, I don't think they're proposing going back to rote memorization of vocabulary words. But
although that does happen sometimes, doesn't it? It's
that
like
certainly does happen,
20 years
especially if
later,
you're
the thing that
preparing.
was chucked out and is now
Yep.
the latest thing.
Or
again.
perhaps if you're preparing for an exam and trying to avoid that idea of studying just for the test,
Yeah.
you know, learning just for an exam. But I don't really think that there is an easy answer. At the end of the day, the purpose of learning another language is really to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's, of course, you know, personal enrichment and things like that. But whether or not it's coming from the publishers or from the students themselves, you know, from working in the exam center, in my own experience talking to parents and students when they come, parents really are interested in that their kids can speak.
Yeah, I mean, it's an
know.
interesting one because I've got kids, and my closest sort of contact these days with English language teaching is through my kids rather
Okay.
than through my personal experience, really, and also through friends that, you know, possibly, but mainly through the kids. And so you get, now with my kids, obviously it's a little bit different because they sort of like already speak English and things, but they do so much English at school now. And from the comments that they make and then talking to their teachers, there are things like, I feel a bit sorry for teachers sometimes because on the one hand, if they don't use the book, so the book's not driving the class and the content of the class and so on, well then the kids complain, oh, we never use the book or whatever, I don't know why. And then the parents possibly, because that cost me, because it costs, I mean, I think I forked out like €700 in the last 2 years just for my son's books, and you know, it's a lot of money. So it's obviously you want to get your money's worth, as it were, because these are the practical things people are dealing with every day. I mean, you know, because you've got obviously what we were talking about before, the theoretical in a conference or so, but then that filters all the way down to people in real towns around, sort
Right.
of really
Yeah.
dealing with these things. And then if they don't use it, but they get criticised, but then an awful lot of these maybe techniques that they might learn in the conference, for example, won't need that book. These common problems, which have been problems for a long time,
Yeah.
really. I don't know. Are you dealing with those as teachers and things?
Well, I think we should say here that everyone in their own way gets, you know, a bad rap.
Yeah, that's true.
Because if a teacher teaches from the book, you say, oh, they don't know what they're doing, and therefore they're using the book as a tool. And of course, any good teacher will use the book as a resource. But you've got to remember the situation in which teachers are working. They have 25, 30 students in a class. The classes are 50 minutes. They've got to get them in, settled. They've got to do a little bit of, you know, consolidation of what they did in the last class, etc. So they're under a lot of pressure. Publishers get criticized a lot. Oh, you're just producing books to make money. They produce books because they have focus groups, they do piloting, they're in close contact with teachers saying, what do you want? And they produce books in line with what teachers want. And I have to say that the vast majority of books which are available for language teaching are very, very high quality and very professionally produced. But, you know, there is a vocal side in English language teaching that say that there should be no books. And they have arguments, and some of them are very interesting and even quite persuasive. So, you know, the publishers are under pressure, the teachers are under pressure, and of course the parents are under pressure because they have to pay for it.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing as well I always think about is, you know, people in our situation where we live here, for example, most of us have learned Spanish or Catalan or both or whatever, and mostly, in most cases, I would think in a very natural way, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, certainly through our interrelations with the people from here and so on. And we'd have to say that that's got to be, you know, you might not have, I mean, I've never been in a Catalan class in my life, and I can speak Catalan perfectly well, and so on. Is it it's always been something when I was a teacher I was interested in as well, is sort of in somehow mimicking those conditions, whether it's through the materials or it's in the environment in the classroom or using certain techniques. Is that gained ground, or is that something, you know, is that part of the underlying methodology or not? Because it wasn't really when I was much, because they weren't very realistic situations you were asking the students to take part in. And I always thought there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of room for improvement there. And I was just wondering if we've maybe gone down that authentic communication sort of road a bit more since 10 years ago or 15 years ago?
I think that everyone would agree that immersion is the best way to learn, but of course that's not possible for a lot of people for a various number of reasons. But I think that, yes, there has been this idea that you need to make, but like what Tom's going back to too, there's so much criticism. You use the book, oh, you never use the book. Everyone would like to have all of the communication be not only meaningful, but realistic, as realistic as possible. Exams are criticized as well, too, because really sitting down and writing sentences and filling in the grammatical part, that's not something you do realistically on a daily basis, but otherwise there's not really an objective way to test somebody's level.
Well, it's something you have to live with, because, I mean, driving test isn't a very sort of good reflection of your driving experience on that, but you have to do it.
But you have to do it to prove your level. And then similar to, say, a speaking test in an exam, it's not exactly a natural conversation, but they do try to make it as natural as possible by having two candidates speak to each other at different parts of the exam, so that they're not just continually speaking to the examiner. The examiners are meant to ask, they're given a script, but the questions that they're given are a bit more natural, asking people about themselves and letting them talk to themselves, and then asking their partner their opinion. So at least two people who are language learners are speaking to one another and being assessed on that, rather than just talking back and forth to an examiner. Yeah. Whether or not, you know, it is really truly possible to teach in a realistic setting in the vast majority of schools, especially like I say a public school or language academy in a small town, I'm not sure that's ever going to be really possible. But having as many different methodologies as possible, you know, focusing on grammar some days, focusing on communication another day.
It's having plenty of tools in your toolbox.
Having plenty of tools.
And that's just one.
Right. We've even got a seminar in our, in our teacher support program that is called Getting the Most Out of Your Course Book, because we understand that a lot of times you're expected to use your course book. Parents have purchased it. The school wants to see, you know, as a record for the school, this is how far we've got through it, so they can also demonstrate to the parents, to the school administrators, this is what we've done this year. But the teachers have an interest, and the children as well, and their parents have an interest in that the kids actually learn. So using the course book as a basis for other activities that you can bring in. So you're still completing this work, but you're also bringing in other activities that are complementary in order to make it a more real learning experience. Yeah.
The other thing as well, I often, like in these interviews, often end up talking about, 'cause it's something that applies to every walk of life, is obviously, you know, modern technology and advancements in technology. I would think that something like teaching in general, and particularly teaching a language, is prime sort of territory to apply some of these modern tools. No, is that the case? Is modern English teaching very involved with those?
Yeah, this is a hot potato, Neil.
It is.
The people who support new technologies in teaching are very enthusiastic, to the point of being proselytizers. And for them, it's the way forward. And you can't really argue with it. I mean, there's so many things you can do with a phone. The world of self-instructed learning, what's available on the web, is out there. MOOCs, everything. But at the same time, you have to ask, what are they actually doing with the new technology? You know, in what way does this aid someone learning, and in what way does this aid someone to communicate? And also, to be honest, there's a threat behind it, which is how far will technology go in terms of...
Machines will take over.
Well, machines in terms of being translators, yeah. When it gets to the stage that you can download an app on your phone that effectively translates in real time to a very high level...
He's making me nervous now, because I'm a translator. It's like I'm starting to sweat makeup. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I mean, it's also, I suppose, with those...
But it's never going to happen, by the way, because imagine that you're having a romantic dinner with someone, you know.
It's been a long time.
And, you know, you're doing it by the phone, you know. So you look very nice tonight, you know.
Okay.
blah, 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 blah. And
Yeah.
Well.
so do you.
Yeah, implants might get
Yeah.
around that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, but I know what you mean. It's also that with the modern technology as well, you have to think maybe the people developing the technology are not necessarily
The user.
English language experts, no? Which is something I've noticed in other things when presumably what you want is English language teaching experts to be the people who are doing the programming and inventing the apps and
But there's an awful lot of overlap. I mean, the world of games, for example, games and education is a really, it's a blooming field, especially in the States.
Yeah.
And online language courses have huge number of users. Whether they stay with the course or not is, you know, kind of irrelevant. People are interested in doing it.
Yeah.
So it all bleeds in together.
And we are a little bit at the beginning of all that, I suppose. We'll see how that goes. I mean, I've seen in my own experience as well, my daughter was always, her English was always a little bit slow to get going. And then once she discovered the tablet, and then got lost in the world of the tablet, and I sort of at one point, you know, getting frustrated how long she was spending on it. You know, you check what she's watching, and you find that she's been watching videos mostly from America, and which is boosted her English. Like, no, she's learned so much vocabulary. Pronunciation, well, it's American now, but its pronunciation is so much better, and so on. And that was from spending hours on YouTube and things like that as well. So
Well, and I agree, and I think too that teachers and learners themselves are also. It's not. I don't ever think that technology will supplant having, whether or not it's an online teacher, or a face-to-face teacher. Even if it's an online teacher, somebody that you can contact to ask questions. I really don't. I could be wrong, but technology I don't think will ever supplant entirely human interaction, because sometimes you have a question that you need somebody to explain it to you, and your question might be slightly different than what you can Google.
Yeah.
But what teachers are looking for, and anyway, at this point in time, schools are not equipped properly to institute.
so that's another problem, isn't it? Yeah.
To institute all of these different technological advances. What teachers are looking for, you know, they have interactive whiteboards and internet access and different things like that. But I think it's just one piece of the puzzle for teachers and for learners as well, because you can go to class. Let's say you watch an episode of a series. You know, when I was a teacher, I haven't been a teacher in a few years now, but when How I Met Your Mother was still on the air, that was an incredibly popular program with teenagers. And they would happily watch it in English. And sometimes, you know, it's a 20-minute program and in an hour class. You've got enough time to watch one episode and then create a lesson out of that and talk about what happened, the characters, why they interact, what happened, why they did that. And then they can go home and continue on to maybe watch some more episodes. And like you were saying about your daughter, she's watching these videos and it's really helping boost. But then you as a teacher can introduce new language to get them thinking about something else, and then they use that new language in something that's of interest to them. So I think that technology, as it stands now, is simply another tool
it's another
for teachers and learners themselves to further their language learning.
They could use this program
Exactly.
in their classrooms, as they should think about.
And it is also, there are a lot of really interesting, exciting things you can do with new technologies.
Yeah.
But it's about, as you say, it's one more tool in the tool bag to come up with a varied approach and stuff. Well, thanks very much for coming on. We're going to have to finish in a minute. I just wanted to ask you before we go, put you on the spot, obviously.
Yeah, great.
Is if people watching, whether they study English or they've got somebody close to them who does, if they could do one thing to improve their English, what would you recommend them to immediately start doing? So, for example, if it was diet, I would immediately advise them to stop eating carbohydrates. I always manage to get that in. What would you say?
Tom?
Okay. Well, I always say that learning a language is like losing weight. I'm not the right person to talk about this, clearly. But, you know, when you lose weight, you have to eat less, eat well, and do exercise for the rest of your life. If you want to be serious about learning a language, you have to work at it every day. You have to find things that you find fun to do, podcasts or online newspapers or whatever, and just do something every day.
Be consistent over a period.
You just have to work at it every day.
It's a process.
Yeah.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah. And find what works for you. I mean, you know, everybody is different. But you can't say, OK, I'm going to just do a couple of classes, and with that, miraculously, I'm going to learn a
That's
language.
part of the problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
People will do a couple of years, give it up, come back 5 years and do a couple of years, and then they're just wasting a lot of money and time. Well, thanks for coming on anyway. Good luck with the conference.
Okay, thank you very much.
And good luck with the talk.
Thank you very much.
And maybe we can have you on for the 5th annual ELT
Oh, that would be
concert,
fantastic.
yeah,
So if people are interested in coming, we're more than happy to welcome them.
Yeah, what's the name? What's the website, just in case?
They can go to our website, which is exams, Catalunya, written in Catalan.com, and go to our events tab, and they can register there.
Okay, good. Well, I advise them to do so. Well, thanks for
thank you
coming
very
on
much.
anyway.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for having us.
That was Going Native with me, Neil Stokes. See you next week.